Hi, my name is Tiochino, and I'm putting this problem on Twitter so you as candidate can learn about it, come up with solution, but also question the lame ducks city councilman. And as you can hear from the mayor of New York,
this one is bugging me. It is a complex subject matter. This is, Brian, these buildings, this goes back, literally to mention the 70s, this goes back to the 70s. This goes back to the bad old days and the Bronx is burning and everything else, where a bunch of buildings were abandoned by their landlords and the tenants hung on, and the city stepped in many cases to provide support.
it is not that complicated. So this tweet and this account are to make sure that the narrative is kept at a manageable size so you can understand what the story is. So the first thing is to download the PDF that you will find in the link of this account, which is the 1999 version of the newsletter put together by the tenant of 640 and 644 Riverside Drive, detailing what the program of third party is. So the question is, we are today in 2020, and we're still at the same place where the developer now is destroying our building, literally, and loading us with debt, which means that in about 15 years, we either going to be foreclosing, like it has happened to many tenants. You'll discover throughout the program or the series that billions of dollars has been stolen from low-income tenant. Hopefully, you'll take a few minutes to read the newsletter that we published in 1999 and ask the question, what happened? And hold those who are responsible accountable.
Preserving affordable housing in New York City means taking on the corruption that plagues the city's leading housing agency, which is the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, specifically the preservation stock, which is nearly 400,000 units of housing. And in that stock are the city's Mitchell-Lama housing and the HDFCs, which are the low-income co-ops. Both programs are plagued by corruption, fraud, and residents have made numerous complaints about these conditions that go unaddressed. So my question to the mayor is, what is his plan to finally give attention and voice to the many residents who have raised these corruption complaints and have gotten no response from City Hall?
Money was borrowed without our input. Work was never done, and they left us with the debt.
Carlton Burrows is angry and he is frustrated. Unfair. For years, he says he and other shareholders of this building on St. Nicholas Avenue in Harlem have fought to keep their homes.
We know we're right. You know, it's not a frivolous case. It's not innuendo.
Burrows owns his apartment through what's known as the Housing Development Fund Corporation, or HDFC, a city program that allowed for tenants to eventually become owners as co-op shareholders. The city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development, however, pushed management over to third parties. According to Burrows' attorney, in this case, one of those parties, Shuhab Housing Development Fund Corporation, took out a hefty loan of nearly $2 million in renovations several years ago. Those renovations, many shareholders say, were never completed.
I've repaired this 7 times.
Those millions of dollars in loans were transferred over at least 4 times, according to court records provided to Pix 11. The debt now resting in the hands of Maverick Real Estate Partners, an investment firm that is now pushing to foreclose on this property.
Chances are we would lose our home, we would lose our ownership, our equity stake in something that we've worked hard for.
Maverick did not return our request for comment for this story, but this legal fight continues. Burrows and tenants of 51 apartments here saying they cannot bear the burden of a monumental debt they had no say over to begin with.
I want to stay here. I deserve to stay here, you know, and that's why I'm going to continue to fight. I'm not giving up.
Dear candidate, my name is Tiochino. I'm coming to you not as a public advocate candidate, but as a victim and a tenant of a shady deal in the city of New York. I am a tenant in the third-party transfer building since 1999. I know what needs to be done. We need to investigate the bureaucracy held by Anne-Marie Hendrickson at HPD. But you need to learn why in 17 years nothing has been done. The district I live in, District 7, has the most foreclosure in the third-party transfer. Why? What can you do as a candidate today to help us and prove that you care about the community you seek to represent? And also, what tool I have developed to help you, the candidate, to make ballot access. So I wanted to present the different tools. It's like a carrot and a stick. So I'm going to present the carrot. It's called Rep My Block. So what I have done is I have used what exists in the city of New York, which is called the county committee, to build a grassroots movement. And you, the candidate, if you seek to represent your district, you're going to need to build a grassroots movement. It's very simple. You partner with activists in every block of New York City in your district, and you get them to petition with you. And that's it. Very simple. You enter your name, your last name, you create teams, you go on the web, and I give that away for free to all the candidates. So now there is the second part. That's the showthebook.org website I built. Basically it lists all the properties from the third-party transfer, from the 421A tax abatement, from anything that you think that should be in there. Let me know.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Raphael Work.
My name is Brenda Stokely.
My name is Rebecca Major.
My name is Carlton Burrows.
My name is Isabel Adon.
My name is Kasaya Antonio.
My name is Tio Chino.
I'm Annie Wilson.
I'm Mary Elizabeth Green Cohen.
I reside at 1600 Nelson Avenue.
640 Riverside Drive.
1211 Washington Avenue.
Living at 938 St. Nicholas Avenue.
499 West 158th Street.
I'm speaking on my mother's behalf in regards to an illegal third-party transfer by Neighborhood Restore.
We were in direct communication with HPD. Henceforth, they knew us by face, they knew us by contact information. At no point did they tell us of our rights on a very basic timeline.
But that HPD sat here and say that they came to our building. I don't know about anybody else's building. That they came to our building and notify us. It's a lie.
Go ahead, tell me the story.
So, more than 30 years ago, our building, 1772 Second Avenue, was taken away from our landlord, San Chatwell, who cheated the government out of zillions of dollars in taxes. Neighborhood Restore and UHAB took it over. They neglected it. It was gradually falling apart. Then the Second Avenue subway came, and it was going to be under our doorstep. But literally, the boring machine was under our feet. They made no effort to shore up our building. They put no restrictions on the MTA's engineers, and our foundation got cracked by the boring machine. Then they threw us out, saying our building was dangerous. So we lived in welfare hotels and shelters, and we had our lawyers petition the court to make them fix our building and make it safe again, which they did, and we moved back in. Then they took it away from UHAB and gave it to ELH. That's a very bad reputation. They've been trying to get rid of us ever since. They're pretending that they want to renovate our building and make it beautiful, and they'll throw us out for a couple of years, God knows where, and what kind of hellhole apartments. We said we're not going. There's no reason we can't stay here. So now they sent another engineer today, and he said the telltale showed the building is deteriorating further. Probably in time you will be thrown out, and it will either be for about 6 months if they just make basic safety repairs, or a year or two if they get it with their idea to renovate the whole building. But at any rate, we're screwed. We're screwed by the city, we're screwed by ELH, we're screwed by Neighborhood Restore, we were screwed by UHAB. So anyone who has anything to do with these agencies better look sharp, because you're going to wind up on the street.
We're going to make sure of that. Well, here it is, another story for 644 Riverside Drive.
Yes.
Ms. Bloodman.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Ms. Bloodman. I live at 644 Riverside Drive for 43 years. I'm now a disabled senior.
And for over 20 years, I've been asking Wavecrest for a handicapped toilet raised to my knees. I've spoken to Mark Levine. I've sent them all my medical records. They do not respond. Or they don't respond, they have me back in housing court for frivolous complaint that I don't give them access. They have access to come and they do the same repairs over 25,000 times and getting paid for it. And we're back in court now presently. So anybody interested in helping some human beings over here at 644 Riverside Drive, please give us a call. Thank you.
And it's a UHAB building.
UHAB building, definitely.
And run by Wavecrest.
Run by Wavecrest.
And it was, the constructor was Delwood.
Yes, and they butchered up the building. Everything in the building is uneven, the floors, the walls, everything.
So
we need some human beings that care about human beings. Please respond. Thank you.
Yes, hello, thank you. I would like to know, what will you do to require transparency and accountability within public and private partnerships? For example, the city does allow the inclusionary zoning programs to include no bidding and secret contracts between HPD and the developers. That's my question.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with that. I'm going to ask James Patchett to join up here because you've been around this stuff for a long time. In your old job, no bidding and secret contracts for mandatory inclusionary zoning. That's new to me. I don't believe that is accurate. Would you like to speak to that?
Absolutely. So thank you for your question. Obviously, we don't allow for there to be secret deals done in the city, but if you're hearing about that, we'd like to understand more about what you're hearing. So I'll come hear about it afterwards from you specifically. Okay? Thank you so much. I'll check with you right after. Thank you.
Let's take our first Ask the Mayor phone call for today. Maria in Brooklyn, you're on WNYC with Mayor de Blasio. Hi, Maria.
Hello. Thank you for taking this call. Mayor de Blasio, I wanted to bring to your attention again the failings of the inclusionary zoning program. Without the transparency and accountability needed, folks are becoming homeless, such as myself. I raised this question at a mayoral forum a couple of years ago, and immediately there was Anne Marie Hendrickson of HPD and James Patchett of EDC giving me business cards. There's been no follow-up, and the situation has become extremely aggravated. Would you please intervene? Thank you.
Maria, thank you. Where do you live, Maria? And just tell me, is there something happening with zoning in your area?
Well, it was part of it, inclusionary zoning.
Where is that,
the
Maria?
Lower East Side, actually. And I'm really concerned about the methodology of the sponsors and the lack of oversight by HPD. And it's a complicated matter. I can't give it all to you in 20 seconds.
Right.
But we need your immediate intervention to this matter. Thank you.
Okay. Maria, please give your information to WNYC. I'm going to have folks follow up today. I apologize if people on my team told you they'd follow up and they didn't. That's not acceptable, so I will make sure people follow up today. Look, the inclusionary zoning, I just want you, Brian, for your listeners to understand, inclusionary zoning, the way we did it, mandatory inclusionary zoning is the strongest law in the United States of America requiring developers to build affordable housing if they want to build their private buildings. And I think it is an absolutely necessary tool to force the creation of affordable housing. Literally, if a developer will not create the affordable housing, they're not allowed to build anything. But I think Maria's point is really important. It has to be applied properly, and we have to make sure that there's no unintended consequences or no developers trying to sneak around the rules. So I take her concern to heart, and I want my folks to follow up today and figure out if there's something that we need to address immediately there.
Shuhab, HDFC versus Burns. So were you guys able to reach an agreement?
No, we didn't even talk.
Judge, I won't conference a case with Mr. Chino as part of the conference because he's a troublemaker and he has tried to interfere in other cases for this building, 4 of which were on today, all of which were settled because the attorneys who handled those cases and one that was pro se didn't involve him. He sent a letter to court administration suggesting that all of these cases should be consolidated when this case had nothing to do with the other cases. The other cases didn't need to be consolidated. All of them were settled today. And he also forwarded to court administration a copy of a complaint that he's made against me at the grievance committee, which is complete and utter BS. So I will not conference a case with him, which is why I have not spoken to Ms. Burns, because she won't conference a case without him.
So
what my client informs me is that Ms. Burns has been has been in the management office within the last month or so, did not mention word one about any repairs needed in her apartment. And my client says over the past couple of years, they painted her apartment about 4 times. I don't really know what the DHCR conditions are. I wish I had that so that we could talk factually about what conditions she claims that my client won't do for the renovations and what conditions they might do. For example, the leaking kitchen and bathroom sinks are a problem. And she didn't say word one to the site manager and the 4 or 5 times that she saw her over the past month. So I don't know how she expects any repairs to be done if she's not telling anybody. So I would think that maybe a short adjournment would be in order.
Well, if we're not going to go to trial, I'll do a short adjournment. Otherwise, I'll just adjourn for trial, and I'll send her to speak to counsel. And if there's a settlement on offer when we come back, then there's a settlement on offer when we come back. Up to you all.
That was totally one-sided anyway.
Yeah, she was the only one talking. I just don't have a lot of time for this right now. Here you go. Oh, let me put a date. November 28th for trial. There's a settlement on offer. There's a settlement on offer. Do you need the...
Did you order the respondent to pay some rent? Because 2 months have come due since this case was first on the calendar on August 27th, and she hasn't paid a thing. You have my rent breakdown.
I have your rent breakdown, which I'll give the tenant. I won't entertain that right now, counsel, only because it's been here all day. Should have made that earlier. It's not on motion, and repairs are at issue. You and O may not be.
She already has a rent reduction for her repairs, and she
I
can't
understand, but
establish
nobody
that.
can establish to me what that
Well,
rent
she's the one
reduction.
that's making the claim.
And you're the one asking me for UNO at 4:56. So the answer is no. See you on the next stage. Go talk to an attorney. Yeah.